Hello and welcome to Sliver Armory, the bonus video as per our fourth video on Sliver itself. In this video, we'll be building upon what we learned in the previous on using Sliver to now explore Sliver's most powerful feature, the Sliver Armory. My name is Irvin Asmontenis, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and feel free to join our Discord server, for which link to you can find in the description below to keep up to date with our content and some very exciting stuff we've got coming up at HackerForce. So you might wonder, what is the Armory and why is it important? Well, as the developers state, the Armory is the Sliver alias and extension package manager. It allows you to automatically install various third-party tools such as BOFs, or which are otherwise known as beacon object files, and .NET tooling. To put it simply, the Armory functions as a repository for various third-party red team tools such as Rubius, Mimikatz, and others. Now, the Armory itself is a built-in feature as part of Sliver, so you won't really need to install anything additional. All that is required is an internet connection, as the Armory will fetch repositories hosted on GitHub. Now, every Armory package that we install will be installed independently for each client and not served server-side. This means that if you're operating in multiplayer mode on an assessment, every operator will need to install their own packages. Now, to interact with the Armory and use it, we use the Armory command, which we'll soon see. It features various different commands for installing, updating, and searching for different packages. Now, on a side note, although Sliver developers thoroughly review all third-party code, it is you and only you that are responsible for examining and comprehending any third-party code before implementation. This means that, whether you're using any code from Sliver's own repository or community-based repositories, before running it in production or on an assessment, just ensure that you review all the contents and the code. Now, God forbid, there might be some community-based packages that you are using, and some of them may have malware installed in them, and if you're running it within an organization's internal network, you might not only just compromise the entire operation, but also the organization. So always just remember to do some pre-analysis on the code first. Now, as per usual, before we actually run a command, we can use the help command to list the various different options for which a command supports, and using it with Armory, we'll see that it has 3 different subcommands, and also it's got 4 unique switches. Now, I suggest you explore the switches for which a command supports. You can specify a timeout, a proxy, whether or not you want to skip certificate validation. But to actually list the various different packages for which the Armory features, we simply use Armory as is. Now, when you execute this for the first time, Sliver will fetch its index. And if you look on its GitHub repository, for which a link to I'll leave in the description below, you'll find an Armory JSON file. So if we click on this JSON file, you'll see that it has various different aliases that it supports, or aliases that it features, and we'll get into what an alias is shortly. But also, it's got the name of the package, it's got the command name for which you use when you're running Sliver, and also it's got its repository URL for where it will fetch to receive that package. Now, once the Armory command is done running, you'll see quite a list here of different packages for which Sliver supports. But typically, you'll have the actual package itself, the version, the type of package it is, whether it's an alias or extension, and the help option for that package also. Now, before we actually get into how to install a package, let's just quickly cover what an alias and extension is. So as we just stated, there are 2 main types of packages within Sliver. That is an alias and a extension. Now, an alias is simply a lightweight wrapper around the existing sideload and execute assembly commands. Now, we'll get into these commands in detail later in the mini course. However, just note that they can be used to run binaries directly within a process, which is in memory, or as child processes respectively. Now, all aliases are stored within the Sliver client aliases directory on the client system, and are actually managed through the aliases command via the implant session. However, the most important bit for the aliases is that they may not have any dependencies such as shared libraries. So overall, an alias must be a standalone binary. Now, an extension on the other hand, and its usage is not too much different. However, an extension is a shared library that is reflectively loaded into the Sliver implant, process and receives several callbacks to return data to the implant. Now, its exact technique in which it does so is a bit irrelevant for us. You don't need to understand it at this stage. However, the biggest difference is that these types of packages may have dependencies and are loaded as part of it, and thus may allow for more complex usage. Now, from the actual client-side perspective, the way that we use aliases and extensions is similar, as we'll soon see. From a high-level perspective, all that matters is how we use those packages. Now, if we actually take a look at some of the output produced by the Armory command, indeed you'll notice that some of these packages are aliases, but some of these packages are extensions. Now, to actually install a package, we use the Armory install command, and if we list the help option for this, you'll see that the only flag or argument that it needs is the name of the package we are installing. Now, if you take a look up here above, you'll notice that some of the packages are actually shipped as bundles. And the bundle is essentially a packaged set of packages. Now, bundles in particular are useful when you're, operating within a specific environment. Say, for instance, you are assessing an environment that is Kerberos heavy. A bundle can essentially allow you to install various different packages that are particular in that area. So in this case, Kerberos installs several different packages such as Kerberoot, which can be used to brute force usernames, NanoRubius, TGT delegation, and more. So for instance, if we were to install Sharp Hound 4, for instance, you'll see that by selecting enter, the package will be installed independently, but then also if we were to install that bundle, Sliver will proceed to install every single package as part of that bundle. So essentially, aliases and extensions, they are individual packages, and bundles are just bundled up packages for a specific application or field. Now, one of the last things I want to show you here is that if you run the Armory command after you've installed a certain set of packages, the packages that you've installed will be highlighted in green. So in this case, our specific package that we've installed individually, such as Sharphound, will be marked as green, and all the other packages that we've also installed as bundles will be highlighted in green also. Now, to actually use a package, we use it by its name. And again, you can use tab autocomplete. And what Sliver will do is it will insert the H switch to list the various different options for which that package supports. Now, if we take a look here, all of these switches for which you are seeing here are particular to the individual package. Now, one who's beginning to use the Armory for the first time might think that by using the help option in this way, Sliver will list the various different options for which that package supports. But this is far from the truth. In fact, what you're seeing here is the options for which the sideload and execute assembly commands support. Now, if you remember, we said that an alias is an individual binary for which gets executed by the sideload or execute assembly command. Now, this is not the same for packages that are extensions. So if we use the help NanoRubius option here, we'll see that the commands or the available switches for which NanoRubius supports here are specific to that package. Now, this is because the package gets loaded reflectively into the process and hence does not use that sideload or execute assembly command as a wrapper. Now, if this doesn't make any sense, it will do as you proceed through the course. Just remember that, for aliases, you list the help options by simply running the command as is, but for extensions, you can use help prefixed to the extension that you are listing the help for. Now, another thing to note is that every single switch that we specify for the package that we are executing, if we don't escape those switches that we are providing for the package, Sliver will interpret it as a switch of its own. Now, to better demonstrate this, say for instance we are running Sharphound 4, which is simply an ingester for Bloodhound, for which we'll explore later in the course. If we were to specify the D switch, which specifies the domain like so, you'll notice that the package once more lists its help options. Now this happens because we did not escape the switches that we provide to the package, so Sliver tried to interpret the switch as its own, and hence we are seeing the help option once more. Now to actually escape the switches that we provide for the package, we use a double hyphen prior to providing any switch that we provide to the package. So as you can see here, the sharphound4 package is suffixed with the double hyphen, and then the switches that apply to the package are specified. So if we try to run this command again, you'll notice there that Sliver correctly executes the switches that we provide for the package rather than interpreting that switch of its own. Now there may be cases where you might want to specify Sliver's own switches as well as specifying the switches for which the package supports, and the way we do so is essentially specifying the switches before the double hyphens. So for instance, say we wanted to specify a timeout of maybe, I don't know, 2 minutes rather than its default 60 seconds or 1 minute, we'd specify the T switch and then the seconds. As you can see, this is specified before we specified the double hyphens here. So by running that as we've just specified it, it will indeed implement the 2-minute timer, as well as include the switches that are package specific. So just always ensure that the arguments you are specifying for the package comes after the double hyphen, but then the arguments that you are specifying for Sliver comes before it. Now another useful subcommand of Armory is the search subcommand, and what this will do is it will search for a specific package. So say for instance we are searching for any packages of Rubius, and that is a tool that you use in Kerberos environments. We'll get into it later in the course, but you see here by using the search subcommand, the Sliver was able to find that package. Now, although it is useful this way, its actual useful functionality comes from the capability of using regular expressions. Now, if you don't know what regular expressions are, they are essentially ways in which you can filter down your searches by using special switches. Not switches, but you can consider more them as characters. So say for instance the caret character, which appears as an arrow there, searches for any strings that begin with the string following it. So for instance, if we were to use it in this way, what the regular expression will do is it will search for any packages that begin with the RUB characters. Now another way you can use this is to search for extensions that end with specific characters, and the way we do so is by suffixing the string with the $sign. By running it this way, you'll see that Sliver was not only able to find Rubius, but also Nano Rubius, which was included as part of the packages. Now we won't get into detail about regular expressions. That is not what this video is based for. If you want to learn more about it, I suggest that you do some research yourself, but it can really be a powerful way to search for the packages for which Sliver supports. Now one of the last subcommands that I'll show you here is the update subcommand, and this is essentially used for when you want to update your installed aliases and extensions. Now Sliver will periodically ship out updates to its aliases and extensions, so to ensure that you're using the most up-to-date tools, just always run Armory update like this to update your packages. Now, should there be any updates, you will see it in the output there, but in our case, there was no updates to the installed packages we had, but if there were, they would have been installed. And that covers Armory. We've discussed on how to install packages, how to update packages, how to search for them, and really what they are. Now, we'll use the Armory more in detail, as we proceed through the course, but just note that the Armory is really useful for running tools within Sliver. So our next video will focus more on stages, and we'll actually start implementing our own implants and executing them. So we'll see you in the next one, and if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, and feel free to join our Discord server, for which link to I've left in the description below.